Now we have to learn how to avoid, how to stop the most important and the most useful thing that Excel does, which is shifting the references of the cell when I shift a formula or a function. If I type a sum for the row 2 and then move that formula for the other rows, the formula changes to row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, and so on and on, automatically. Sometimes we do not want this to happen for an amount of reasons that I will show in the next couple of slides. To avoid this, to stop in a formula a certain function, whatever is it, Excel to shift the references, we have to lock that letter and number using a special character. It's called to introduce the absolute referencing. So since probably the dollar is the absolute reference for the economy of the world, Excel decided to use the dollar sign. So when in a formula or in a function you type something like $B $1, that means that whenever you copy and paste that formula, $B and $1 will always remain B1. They will not change. This is called the absolute cell reference, as compared to the relative cell reference, which is the normal way Excel works, and it's also the very useful thing that Excel does. And in the next few slides, we'll go more into this. This is indeed a very simple example taken from somewhere on the internet. Of course, there's a lot about this on the internet. Sales, price per unit, quantity sold, and that's a multiplication. Then you have to compute the sales tax. Now, of all the menu item, prices change according to the item, so they change each line, and also the quantity may change each line, but the sales tax remains always the same. So that's the reason why you want the cell E1 that contains the cell that contains the sales tax percentage to remain always the same. You don't want to repeat 7.5% over all the column. There's no way. So the formula in this case will be price times quantity times sales tax. Price is in cell B, and B changes because the price may change. Quantity is in cell C, and C changes because quantity changes. Sales tax, no, is in E1, and so it's $E $1. This formula, when copied around this column, will change B's and C's, but will never change E to anything else that E1. Small video in the next slide will show you better. Now let us apply this absolute reference thing to our student gradebook. We decide, well, the teacher decided that if the homework was good, I add 3 points to the final semester average, which will be the average of the tests plus 3 points if the homework is good. So start by adding these columns to the first semester. Let's work for the first semester first. I will guide you step by step to compile the first semester with the absolute reference and also the if function, which will come in a moment. And then I will let you do on your own the second semester. But this will be an assignment for next week. This is just a makeup class. It's a regular class. I want to introduce these two things, but we will check them again next Monday. So basically, take your time and add homework and add semester average. column. I will tell you later how to compute it. And type a homework bonus below that semester average, possibly one row aside, just like this. Let me now introduce to you what we are going to use to calculate the semester average. Because once you have written that column, question is, how do we fill it? Do we fill it by hand, checking with our eyes whether the homework is good and then add the number 3? No, we are going to use a specific function called the if function that basically emulates the reasoning of our mind. Because when I have to grade a student, I check if the homework is good, I add 3 points. There is a function in Excel, which is also one of the most important functions in the whole computer science, the if function. It's a function that let the computer decide, make choices. An if may return only one result, a logical result. If something is false or true, and then act correspondingly according to the instruction that the programmer gives the computer. In our case, we are using the if function of Excel, which does exactly the same things. Specify evaluates to true or evaluates to false. An example. The function checks the cell A1. A1 contains a number. And I want to have aside the cell A1 something written like over 10 or less. So if cell A1, comma, over 10, comma, 10 or less returns. The way the if function works will be shown in the next slide better. This is a text explanation on how the if function works. The average function, remember, in parentheses had only one argument, the range of cells. The if function has an argument with 3 items. Items in the argument, in what is inside the parentheses of a function, are separated by a comma. The first in if function is the logical test, which basically is the question, what are we testing about? What is that it has to be either true or false? If what? What are we checking? And then 2 actions. What happens if the value in the logical test is true, and what happens if the value in the logical test is wrong? Read carefully, but in the next few slides we will apply this, and you probably can come back to this slide after having seen if it works and probably understand even better what is written in this comprehensive description of the if function. So just read these and then move on, please. We need now to apply the if function to our gradebook. And the question we have to pose, the first argument of the if is homework is equal to good. Homework, have you seen, I have described it in either good or poor, and in capital letters. You will now understand that you have to write it exactly as I did, and if it's good in capital, it must be good all caps. If it's good in small caps, it must be good in small caps, but it must be consistent throughout the column. Do not change from good in capital to good in small caps to good with only the capital G. I suggest you do as I have done in the example, G-O-O-D all caps. So the first test is where the homework is good. Now, since we are checking not numbers but letters, also called strings in IT, you have to put the letters in double quotes, and small caps will be different from capital letters. Then is the second function of is the second argument of the function. What happens if the homework is actually good? Then the average of the semester will be the average of the test plus the homework bonus. Case false. Else, what else? If it's not good. If it's not good, the average of the semester is just the test average. All arguments inside the parentheses must be separated by a comma. Next slide will show the example, and then there is a screen recording of me doing all this. Okay, let's go step by step. First of all, this is the homework, and this will be the semester average cell. I need semester average a bit big. Then I want here homework bonus, and I want it 3. Let me shrink a little bit student average so we have more space. After that, I need to enter here the homework. I take the homework from my already completed spreadsheet. You type in yourself the homework: good, poor, 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 good, good, poor, poor. While you do this, I adjust a little bit the things so that this will show well. And now I hope you type it in while I adjust a little bit the colors. This homework is going to be in yellow according to my convention, and also the homework bonus is yellow because it's data entry. Semester average will be pink because it's a derived data. And now I hope you typed in at least the 4, 5 first places. Now it's time to learn about the if function. The if function in Excelian, which we explained a moment ago, works like this: equal if. And Excel shows you what is the content of the if function. First of all, there is a logical test, then a comma, then a value if true, then a comma, then a value if false. In other words, the argument, the content of the brackets, in this case, has 3 items, not just 1. In average, that was the range of cell. Remember, here equal average, and then in brackets the range of cells. Here the semester average, the if function, will contain 3 items in the argument. Listen to me carefully now. The first item is the logical test, which basically is the question, if what? What are we testing about? Well, in our reasoning in the slide before, if the homework was good was the beginning of the reasoning. So we are really testing here if homework is good, which in Excelian means G3 is equal to good. That's the test in Excel. Since we are dealing with numbers, with letters and not numbers, then we have to put that in double quotes. And capital, it's different from small caps. So it must be exactly capital G, capital O, capital D. So that's the first logical test. Comma, and we step to the second item in the argument. What happens then if the homework is good? Well, if the homework is good, we just take the student average, which is in F4, and we give the student average 3 points more. No, we don't give it 3 points more. We give it the content of cell H20. Always refer to cells, not include numbers. Don't write 3 here because that's very wrong. Comma, the third option. Homework is not good. The value of the if homework is good, is either true or false. If homework is good, in this case it's false. And so, in this case, the semester average of per student will just be the student average with nothing else. And that's it. And it works. Now, if I use the fill handle, and drag this down, and then I format number, no decimals. I have done my job, have I? As I said, and I will repeat it anytime we do something like a calculation in Excel, any single time. Once you have created the formula and applied it, and then fill handle copied to the rest of the column or the row, just stop and check if the results make sense. Student average 84, homework is good, so 84 plus 3 is 87, correct. 83, poor, 83. No bonus added, correct. 77, poor, 77, with no 3 added. 91, 91. 82, good, should be 85. Oh, it's 82. What happened here? Why the function did not work in this case? And we discovered this going down to the 6th row. This is an important lesson I want to teach you. Test all possible cases when you have used a formula to see whether that formula really correctly worked. Because if you just look at this table, you won't notice if you don't go carefully case by case. And this is one case where we meet the problem of relative and absolute reference. Let me open this formula. As you notice, Excel is so nice to show you all the involved formula after you press F2 inside the cell. So that's good, that's student, and that's 3. Okay, now let's go next to. Now if G4, F4, and H21, it was H20 here that contains the bonus. Here, everything shifted 1 cell down. Look at this square here. While I look at the formulas in the rest of the column, I notice that once the formula shifts 1 cell down, also the cell that should contain the bonus shifts 1 cell down. This is what we do not want. This is the case where we do not want the absolute reference to work. This is the case where we must stop it, we must lock Excel into a single cell. And this is done by including the dollar sign. $H$20 locks the reference cell to H20. With the dollar sign on, it will stay stable. It will not move if I shift the formula. Let me now copy this down and look at it again. Now I have G3, F3, H20, okay? Going down, G4, F4, but H20 stayed 20. It didn't become 21. 5, 5, 25. 6, 6, 26. 7, 7, 27. This is the absolute reference applied. $H$20 is an absolute reference. And this is how we keep the formulas shifting the value for the lines, because that's good, because there is a student on each line and we want to compute the average for each student, but some control values stays always the same. You can watch this all again if you want.